Hi, I'm Dr. Deepa. Welcome to my channel Together and Fun. In this module, we'll be looking into more about the poet, background of the poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda, its analysis, structure, literary devices implied, and theme of the poem. Pablo Neruda was a Chilean poet, diplomat, and politician who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971. Neruda became known as a poet when he was 13 years old and wrote in variety of styles. Neruda is often considered the national poet of Chile, and his works have been popular and influential worldwide. Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda is a deceptively simple poem about the need for a little bit of soul searching, which may help us make peace with ourselves and others. It tells us how a moment of silent introspection will make us realize the utter futility of our aggressive endeavors. Now let's look into the poem. And now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would not look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I will count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go. Now let's analyze the poem. Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. The poet here requests everyone to count till 12 in their own mind and to stop for a while. Maybe this 12 referred by the poet is the 12 hours in the clock or 12 months in a year. He wants everyone to stop and calm down. The poet urges everyone not to speak any language. As we all know that there are different languages spoken in different parts of the earth, which sometimes become a barrier in our way for peace. So he asks people not to speak. Not only this, he also wants us to stop moving our arms. By using the word arms, he means the weapons which are used by different countries to raise a war against each other. So, basically, the poet is demanding peace from all of us. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Poet says that it would be a rare situation when there will be no engines working. Here, he wants to say that if everything comes to stand still, it will be a very different moment. If all the engines, like the vehicles and machines, stop, then there will be a sudden strange situation, as the whole world will experience a sudden calmness. People will not be in a rush to achieve material things, one after another. Further, the poet says that the fishermen will also stop and not harm whales in the sea. This means that the poet is urging everyone not to harm the animals. Here, he gives the example of whales which have been hunted for the purpose of food or trade. He also wants people to calm down so that they can stop and see what they have achieved or lost. For this, he gives the example of the man who gathers salt, whose hands are hurt. Here, he wants everyone to stop for a while in order to see and feel their achievements and how much they have lost for the sake of attaining such materialistic things. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. The poet asks everyone to stop those activities which are damaging the environment. Today, all the human beings are making money by damaging the environment with their activities such as mining, deforestation, letting the chemical waste into the rivers, etc. The poet asks us not to do so. He also requests people not to involve in wars, as there is no benefit of achieving such victory in which no one is left alive. He says so because the wars and environmental damage will lead to no life on earth. Rather, he wants people to adopt a new approach towards life and mankind. He says that you should treat your enemy like brothers and promote peace and harmony in the world. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Now, the poet wants to clarify to his readers that when he asks them to stop from saying or doing anything, he doesn't want anyone to become a non active person. Non-active person who remains idle and doesn't do anything. Here, he simply means that we should stop and see the consequences of our deeds. The poet doesn't want to see people being killed due to their greed for money and expansion of territories. Further, he says that people are continuously working to achieve their task without even thinking about their results. They are in fear of death and therefore want to achieve most of the things before their death. Here, he urges them to stop for a while and take some moment to relish on what they have achieved till now. Everyone here is living a life in which he wants to achieve various things one after another. But now the poet says it is the time to stop and see what has been achieved and what should be enjoyed. This will help us skip the sadness which has become so prominent in our lives. The sadness of not enjoying what we have achieved and the greed to achieve what next is in the list to be achieved. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So now the poet suggests to the human beings that we should learn a lesson from earth. During the winters, everything freezes and becomes lifeless. But when season changes and it's the onset of spring season, everything present in the nature, such as the trees, birds, rivers, etc., gets life. So here, the poet, by giving the example of nature, wants to say that all human beings should stop and try to judge their deeds. They can try and make their life better with calmness and peace. Finally, he ends up by saying that now he will count up to 12 so that we all may become quiet. Here, quiet means to calm down ourselves and move towards the path of peace and harmony. After saying this, he says, I will go. He says so as he has conveyed his message to the people and wants them to be left alone to think about it and work in the direction of peace. The poem is written in free verse. It does not follow any rhyme scheme. The poetic devices used are assonance, anaphora, alliteration, repetition, and enjambment. The poem Keeping Quiet, written by Pablo Neruda, discusses the need of maintaining peace and silence. He stresses upon being quiet and harmless to human beings, animals, and environment. He suggests that in order to maintain peace and harmony, it is required to stop and introspect ourselves. Do you think the poet Pablo Neruda advocates total inactivity and death? Why? Why not? Until we meet tomorrow, by this time, keep thinking. Feel free to drop in your answers and comments. If you are watching this channel for the first time, subscribe. If you like the content, click the like button and share. If you want to see more of these videos, enable the bell icon. Thank you.